So, salete everyone, and welcome to Classroom Management and More. I know some of us are watching on YouTube rather than participating in the live Hangout, so I figured the hour was upon us and we would go ahead and get started. I'm Justin Schwab, and after, goodness, 23 years of teaching Latin in a whole bunch of different contexts, I realized something very, very important when I was at the ACL Institute last month, in June of 2015 for those of us who will be watching later. And the thing that kept coming to my mind was I was talking to old veterans like me, and I was talking with young teachers and folks in the middle, and the conversations kept coming back to how do we do a better job of inviting new teachers into the great community of Latin teachers that there is? How do we do a better job of passing along our hard-won wisdom so that people don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time? And on the Sunday morning of the Institute, there was a great panel about mentoring and about using technology for mentoring. Wonderful participants and great programs that were being described, but great programs that were mostly being designed and were a few months or even a few years away from really going out and reaching people. Well, at the end of that session, I kept talking to people and saying, those are really good programs. And they were going to do great things. They really were designed to build one-on-one mentoring relationships between old teachers. I hate to use the word old teachers. I'm not old. Um, that's what I claim anyway, between seasoned teachers and new teachers. But the problem was that's not the only thing that people need. People, sure, they need that, but they also need, even as seasoned people, we sometimes need help with things. We need new ideas when things are going stale. We need places that we can share and exchange ideas with each other. We need a virtual community that's not just a one-on-one thing, but that's a group of us working together towards a common good. We need the same kind of thing, really, that everybody wants to build in our classes. We need a learning community that will do stuff together and will help each other. At least I think that's what everybody wants. I know it's what I want. I know it's what I've spent nearly a quarter century learning how to build with myself and my students. And I wouldn't say that I'm a total expert at it, but I would say that we've learned some important lessons. By we, I mean me and all those students over the years. As a profession, we've learned a lot of important lessons too. But those lessons are they're kind of spread around in people's file cabinets and on people's hard drives and in people's heads and in notebooks and stuff. And I think it's time now for us to go ahead and start sharing those ideas with each other. So that's kind of my brief overview of why. For folks that are in the Hangout rather than watching on YouTube, if you could tell me briefly, if you don't mind, what it was that caused you to want to tune in today. And if you're watching in the Hangout, there's the chat box over on the right of your screen where you can click. If it's not there, you can click on the chat indicator to bring it up. And just let me know if you're willing to do that. Let me know what it is that brought you here today and what you're hoping to get out of our time together. Well, if you're anything like me, it's sometimes hard to answer a question like that. So I'm going to let people think about that, and I'm going to tell you why it was that we decided on this topic for this particular Hangout. And we are going to do another one tomorrow on July 26th, same time, same format, and you guys are welcome to come back, and um, for that matter, share this video and invite other people to come and watch. Then you can come back and watch because we'll be doing some of the same things at the at that time, but we'll also be doing some different things. Anyway, um, classroom management wasn't actually the number one response of things that people said that they wanted when we did the survey about virtual mentoring. It was on up there. It rated very solidly. Its numeric rating on the scale from 1 to 5 after 75 responses, it was rating it a 3.3, which is definitely on up there. Thing number one, which got a 4.34 out of 5, the leader, was creating and sharing engaging activities that also instruct. And we'll definitely be doing a Hangout about that. But I realized something important about that. I realized something really, really important about that topic, which is it's hard to feel like you can create engaging activities that also instruct if you don't feel like the basic conditions are there. If you think that you ask students to do something and they're not going to do it, if you think that you try to get their attention and it's a battle for that. Um, and then the other thing that I realized was there was a whole lot of discussion about classroom management, particularly on the Latin Teacher Idea Exchange Facebook group. And that discussion fell into a couple of broad categories like it usually does. There were what I would call the big picture questions, and there were the micro picture questions. So people were talking and saying really good things about their philosophy of what classroom management should be and how they should relate to their students in the grand scheme of things. And those are important discussions. And then there were discussions of like a specific strategy. Well, this is how I personally, somebody would say this is how I personally handle homework, or this is how I personally handle hall passes, or all those little things that little things are the big things sometimes. And anyway, what I realized was there wasn't really much of a connection between the big picture and the micro picture. So people would say, well, this is what we all want and desire for our students, which is probably true, or this is what I do with this particular task. But there wasn't much of a connection between the big thing and the little thing. And that's kind of a problem, isn't it? Because, I can set out, especially if I'm a new teacher, I mean, what do I want? I may not even know what I want. I remember being a new teacher and I knew I wanted a productive, happy classroom. And I knew I wanted certain traits from the classes that I had taken and loved. And I knew I didn't want to be like Miss Such and So in this particular way because that had always been a problem. But I didn't really know how to get from there to the micro level of, so how do we handle this? And then I realized, I think I know how to do that. I think I know how to do that because I've learned how, and from bitter experience, I bet that you guys watching have too. But wouldn't it be great for people not to have bitter experiences and painful experiences, and to be part of a community that could work on these things together? Because that's the secret that I learned, is the importance of a learning community that does stuff together. If you've looked at in my online trail there, that learning communities are really important to me. The Trace Alumni Project website is all about being a joyful learning community. My classes, I tell them, we are the Latin family, we are the joyful learning community. Well, now what does that mean and what does that look like? And you don't have to do that. That doesn't have to be your guiding metaphor. But being a learning community is really important. And I think that we can be a learning community that solves problems together and that creates things that are greater than any of us can create by ourselves. And that's where I want this program to go. That's what I want to invite you guys to be a part of. So taking it from the big picture to the medium picture to the small picture. The big picture is this question: what do we individually and what do we as members of this community, what do we want our classes to be like? That's obviously a question that each person has to answer for themselves. Um, what should it feel like? What should it look like? What kind of a emotional tone is there to this room or those rooms or this online space or whatever your teaching context is? Um, and then you take it down to kind of the medium picture. So in practicality on a daily basis, what does that look and feel like? What kinds of things do I have to do? And what kinds of things do kids have to do to make that happen? So focusing not on the rules and consequences sides yet, if you decide to have rules and consequences, which not everybody does, but focusing first on what do you want it to look like on the positive side? What do you want people to be doing? What do you want it to feel like? From there, um, then once you've got that in place, it's a question. I mean, I think we probably all know this intellectually, but it's a question of modeling that in all of our interactions with kids starting from the beginning. But of course, that's not the whole thing, right? Because of course there are going to be problems. And if you've ever been in a classroom, you know what some of those problems are. So what I think is the missing piece, or what I've realized is the missing piece, is once you know the big picture, what do we want to be, and the sort of medium-sized picture, what does that look and feel like when it's going well, then you can start to think about individual problems. Pick one that's just annoying. Um, if anybody's willing to share a problem that's just annoying, anybody who's watching on Google Plus rather than on the YouTube channel and has access to the chat, if you want to just put one of those annoying problems over there in the chat, I'll wait a little bit while you think about it. Otherwise, I have two. Okay, so one of my two is the whole issue of kids being tardy to class. We all know, if we've ever been in a school, that it happens. We know that the school probably has a policy. The school may have a good policy that prevents tardiness. If so, I want to know what it is. The school may think it has a good policy that prevents tardiness, but it doesn't really. Or the school may have a policy that's designed to prevent tardiness, but it doesn't work for whatever reason. Teachers don't follow it. Students don't follow it. Paperwork builds up. So the question might be, given that these three kids are usually 2 or 3 minutes late every day, how do we solve that within the context of a learning community? Or in my case, it would be a joyful learning community that makes things together, that makes meaningful things together. Whatever your central guiding metaphor of what you want your class to be. So since one of our guiding metaphors in my classes is we are the Latin family, then what I might do, depending on the particular kid, is, so the policy isn't working, or the policy is unworkable. The office is backed up by 2 months in dealing with assigning detentions for tardies or whatever. So this is a thing that's got to be solved. That's not going to be solved on the outside. Well, then it's a question of maybe starting out with a conversation with the kid and saying, do you feel like you're part of this community or not? Maybe they don't. Maybe the reason they're late is because, or the reason it's easy for them to be late might be because they don't feel like they're part of this community. Maybe they feel like they're singled out. Maybe there's somebody that's being mean to them and they don't like it. Maybe there's something that has nothing to do with your class at all. It could be the other class is really far away. They need to go to the bathroom and there's just not enough time. There's a whole bunch of things that it could be, and I don't have a prepackaged solution for any of them. But I do have a process, and the process is to make sure that the kid feels known and heard and understood, because 9 times out of 10, more than 9 times out of 10 probably, once the kid feels known and heard and understood, that problem either goes away or it gets a lot less bad than it was. Um, how do you go about doing that? Well, of course, you have to know the student and you have to be clear about what it is that you want. You have to understand what they want, and then, probably working together, you find a solution. You find a solution that's greater and better than the one that either of you could come up with by yourselves. And it is my strong belief that as we go forward with this community here that we're starting to build with these Hangouts, I really think that we're going to be able to do a lot of things. I think we're going to be able to we're going to be able to do all kinds of things. One of the things I think we're going to be able to do is to bring those kinds of problems together into our community and find ways of solving them together. I think we can do this with a lot more things than just with classroom management. In fact, I know we can do it with a lot more things with classroom than just classroom management. For example, I know we can work on creating and sharing engaging activities that also instruct, which were the number one thing that people said that they wanted. But the only problem is I don't think we can do that in like a one-time hangout. I don't think we can do that in a series of 2 or 3. I think that takes a long-term community and a long-term commitment. And so I don't want to talk about that today because I think that would just be too much to absorb. But I really do think that that's something that we can solve together. I think we can build an ongoing community or a bunch of them that solve really big problems like creating resources, creating activities, improving them, um, helping us build the kind of classroom climate that all of us want, but that sometimes can be pretty evasive. Helping us do that together, I think that's the next step for us. And so thank you guys for coming today. Can I ask you a favor? Um, can I ask you to spread the word about this? Can I ask you to comment on the Facebook share and to share the video link with your friends and to encourage people to come to the next Hangout? Because we're going to do basically a similar thing, but I hope that we'll have more people who are willing to actually be in the Hangout and interact next time. And then the other thing that I'm hoping will happen is that from this, we're going to build a real community that is intensely interested in solving these problems together, and that we can end up making stuff that we can share with the greater profession. But I'll have more to say about that and like logistics and all those kinds of things next time, because I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I know everybody's time is precious, especially on a Saturday afternoon. So right now, I want to say thank you guys for coming. I want to thank you again for taking your time, and I want to ask you again to keep the conversation going on Facebook and to share this video link if it was helpful, and to comment on it either on Facebook or over there on YouTube, either one, and tell me what you guys think. What can we do to really make this happen? What can we do to make it better? So again, I'm Justin Schwam, thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you can come to the next time, and I hope that we can build something wonderful together. So valete omnes, valete amici, we will see each other next time.